In this video, I'm going to be replacing this sump slash oil pan gasket on this 27 horsepower Briggs and Stratton V-twin. Where's the cover for it? 27 horsepower, big one. So it's a common thing on these. The gasket likes to blow out along the sides. They do have a new and improved gasket, which I have here. You see how much thicker it is on this side. It used to be like pretty much all this thickness around the whole gasket, but then they beefed it up in the spots that it likes to blow out at. So got a new gasket, and I also have a new crankshaft seal if I need it. I forgot to order this O-ring for the oil pump, but I might be able to reuse that. I'm not sure. But first things first, disconnect the governor, which is a 10 millimeter, or no, it's bigger than that. I lied. Maybe a 12. No, might be standard. 7/16. That's what it is. Oops. Man, that was on there super tight. Holy crap. Felt like I was going to break something. And then, where this crack is, you want to take a screwdriver, stick it in there. Kind of just gently try to spread that apart. Make it something better. Doesn't have to, you don't want to do it too far, but just enough. And then it should slide up and off, but this one's giving me a little trouble. I'm just taking a hammer and kind of banging a screwdriver in there. Hopefully you guys can see that. There it goes. See how it's sliding off? Now you are going to have to reset that when you're done, so keep that in mind. Gently pull it off. There's 2 or 3 springs that are attached to this, and you really don't want to lose those or forget which order those go in. Then you're kind of screwed. Okay. Just like that. I'm just going to gently rest it right there. Alright, so next, oil pump cover. I believe this was even a problem on the single cylinder engines too, but might be more so on these. Probably going to leak oil everywhere once I pop this off. Nope. Now, if you do decide to pull this pump out, which I am going to do, because I know it's probably going to fall out anyways when I try to remove it, make sure that you do not flip these upside down. Make sure it goes back the exact way you pulled it off. See, there's that. And then there's this outer ring, which comes out like that. Now what I mean is don't like flip it upside down and put it together that way. I'm not 100% sure if that'll make a big difference, but you don't want to find out. That's for sure. Okay, I'm going to put that off to the side here. That O-ring looks really good actually, so I don't think I have to order one of those. It's kind of expensive. Briggs and Stratton wanted, I think 14 or 15 bucks for just that. It's ridiculous. Alright, we got that disconnected. So now I'm going to go around and zip all these 13 millimeter bolts out. Wow, these are not very tight. I looked up the torque spec for these, and they're like, I think it was 200 inch-pounds, which is something like 16 or 17 foot-pounds, something like that. Not very much. You do have to put Loctite on them. This engine was absolutely caked with oil. I mean, everything was just black. I spent like a half hour with the pressure washer, and I still couldn't get it all off. All right. Well, those bolts are out. Sometimes these come off easy, sometimes you got to beat them. This one's going to require a hammer. Use a plastic one or rubber. Don't use a metal one unless you hate your engine. Probably not the best idea to hit it by the oil drain, but that's what I'm doing. There, it's coming right apart. I'm going to put some paper towels underneath that because I have a feeling it's going to gush oil out. Okay. Let me zoom out here so you can see more. There we go. I probably should have done that to begin with. Now you're all zoomed out. So now just kind of carefully pull it out. Yep, there goes the oil. Always makes a mess. There's no real way to avoid that, unfortunately. Oops. Also, forgot about this. Pump for the oil shaft. It's pretty self-explanatory how that goes. One end fits into that. Here, I'll show you that. One end is going to fit into this, which is actually going to be this end. So you can't really put it in backwards. I just pulled this out of off the side here. You can see where it kind of blew out. See how thin this original gasket is compared to the new one I showed you? This was a common failure on this. So yeah, this gasket is just brittle, and it's like I don't know, like a graham cracker, just snaps right away. But anyway, that's what it looks like down here. This engine looks really, really good inside. Very clean, no sludge, nothing. I'm very happy with that. Now would be a good time just to take a peek around to see if there's any chunks or anything you don't want to see inside of there, but this one looks great, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to get all this scraped off, or really just peeled off. It comes off super easy, and I'll bring you guys right back. Alright, got the pan cleaned off real good. Got the engine cleaned off perfectly too. You can just use a razor if you want, or if you're really careful, you can use a roll-lock disc. You gotta be super careful if you use this though, because it will eat away at the aluminum, so just go very, very lightly. So what I do is I scrape off, 99% of it with the razor, and then just a little hard spots that won't come off with the razor, I just go in there with the roll-lock disc. I know there's a safer alternative to this. It's I think it's made by 3M. They use plastic bristles or whatever. I'm not looking to get in that. But anyway, see, these are all the bolts that came out. You see that yellow stuff on there? That's Loctite. You're going to want to grind all that off, all of the bolts. And also, what I did is I blew out each of the bolt holes with brake clean and compressed air. Make sure they're completely clean and dry. So I'm going to get to work on that, and I'll be back. Alright, I am back. Everything cleaned off. Bolts all grinded down. If you do buy the Briggs and Stratton kit, it comes with new bolts. I really don't see the need since these really don't take a lot of torque, so it's not like they're gonna stretch or whatever. So not a big deal. Just don't over tighten them, obviously. You see how much thicker this gasket is compared to the old one. I mean, it's insane. It must have had a lot of problems with it blowing out, because I think this is the only gasket you can get now. Got it lined up on the dowel pins. Wipe off your crankshaft too, before you remove the cover and after. It'll just reduce the risk of you accidentally, tearing your seal if there's junk on here or whatever. So just keep in mind that. Get it nice and clean. Let's see, everything's nice and cleaned off, ready to go back together. I also got all the old oil out of here, because when you're scraping gaskets, you really want to clean everything out the best you can, because there's could be little bits of gasket that get stuck in here. So I just took a can of brake clean, rinsed everything down into the sump down there, and then just mopped everything up with some paper towels. And that it's spotless now. So all right, let's put this back together. Let's see here. Might have to rotate the crank a little bit. You never want to put it back together with a hammer. Should slide back on by hand. What's going on here? Here we go. Right back together. I mean, I guess you could use a hammer if you're like one of these, if you're super gentle, but it's not recommended. You want it to go back together by hand. Okay. Now check, make sure your crank seal didn't roll over, like the rubber on the rubber part of the seal. You want to make sure when you slide the cover on that it doesn't fold over. Just wipe all the schmoo off of there. It's amazing how much oil is still stuck in this thing, even though I drained it beforehand. It's probably at least, I don't know, half a quart, something like that. It's pretty crazy. Okay. I'm gonna take my bolts, put a bit of Loctite on each of them, and run them in. You don't want to overdo it. These do have lock washers on them, so that will help as well, but evidently you still got to put Loctite on it. Now on this model, all the bolts are the same size, so it doesn't really matter which way they go back in. I can't remember what I was working on, but I remember they had 2 different size bolts, and I had to remember exactly where they went. So the story behind this engine is it was on a Craftsman, I think GT 500, 5000, something like that. The mower itself was kind of clapped out. Those Craftsman mowers aren't the best. The steering was busted. The mower deck was busted. The transmission didn't have reverse. It needed a lot of welding work on the mower deck as well. So it really wasn't worth fixing. So I scrapped that and kept the engine since it ran great. But it had a big oil leak, obviously, so I had to fix that. All right, I'm going to set my impact on very low. Actually, that's the wrong setting. I'm not putting any torque on these, just running them down, because you do have to tighten them in a crisscross pattern. Okay, got all those in there. I'm going to grab my torque wrench, and I believe it's 16 foot-pounds. Don't take my word for that, but that's what I think I saw in the manual. I'm going to pause the video here and get all those tightened down. Alright, got that all torqued up. From what I found online, those get set at 200 inch-pounds, which is 16.67 foot-pounds, whatever. Something like that. You'll want to look that up for your specific model if you do this on your own. Okay. Next, oil pump, the drive. So that'll just go in and you'll turn it. So you won't go in if you just push it, so you have to turn it. And then it'll pop right into place. Then put the rest of it in. I'm going to leave a little bit of oil in there for that O-ring to sit. Yeah, this O-ring looks great, so I don't feel bad about reusing that. It's still stuck on the cover. I'm going to leave it like that. Okay. Now I don't know the torque spec for these specific bolts, but I'm going to assume they are very low. I don't even think they could loosen up even if you under torqued them, because they just hit the frame of the mower. So run them down. Once again, not putting any torque on them with this. Okay. Just gonna snug them nice and tight by hand. Try to get them as even as possible. Okay. Now for the governor. What's going on here? It's all jammed up. What happened? Oh, there we go. Okay, all my springs are connected. Everything looks like it's correct. All right, I'm gonna get that set up. Clean off all the extra oil just in case. I'm gonna put it on my run stand and fire it up, see what we get. So, as you can see, fires right up, runs pretty good. I'm going to run it for a little bit longer to see if there's any leaks, but I doubt there is. Yep, so far so good. Before, I mean, it was like right here, it was pouring out. I mean, when it was running, you could just see it constantly dripping. It was pretty bad. So looks perfectly dry now. But that's going to be it for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.